As informed earlier, we have a special meeting today. Right level respected principal informed this program, and she advised me to arrange a special program with regard to the World Mental Health Day. So we arranged a special meeting. It's a very valid meeting. I'm very happy to invite and introduce the present the resource person. Is a close friend of mine, and he is an assistant professor in the counseling department, Mr. Vivyn Mathew. He did his MSW and MPhil degree in the psychiatric social work from NIMHANS from Bangalore, and also he is a mental health consultant and a therapist in the New Hope Counseling Center, and also he specialized in the capacity building training and also in life skill training and counseling in individual psychotherapy, family therapy, psychiatrist rehabilitation, community mental health and disaster mental health, crisis intervention, and also he worked as a faculty in IBC IGO Kumbanat. Present, and also he is a research coordinator. He worked as a research coordinator in NIMHANS, Bangalore, during the year of 2004 and 2005. Currently, he is serving as a project director of Tribal Mental Health Project Wayanad as a part of the medical college project, Government of Kerala. They are doing. He is resuming that position. So he is having a high profile, and he is the right person to interact with us. On behalf of the seminary community, faith theological seminary community, sir, we welcome you to our midst and take your valuable time and interact with us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I have on my video, and is my face visible? I think, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Can you people see me?
Yes.
Okay. So good morning, everybody, and thank you for inviting me to this wonderful day, Rajun sir. And good morning to all the faculty, the students, everyone at the Faith Theological Seminary. Though I worked for a very brief stint in Kubanad, I was not able to visit your place, but still, thank you for inviting me. Yes. So today we are going to, as Rajivan sir introduced, we are going to talk about mental health. It's a topic which is there in front of everybody, but very few people address that. But I thank the administrators, the faculty of Faith Theological Seminary for understanding the importance and giving a special day or a special time for addressing the mental health area. And I thank one and all. Right now, as Rajivan sir told, I am working here. I am working here in Wayanad. I am the project director for the Tribal Mental Health. It's a project that is run by Calicut Medical College, and so I'm being a part of that. So we are working here as a team. We give home-based intervention for the tribally mentally ill. It's a large area of work. So that is what I am right now pursuing. Though I'm working as in the area of tribals or in a secular area, the heart for me is in missions, because in 2010 I left for being a missionary in Bihar, working along with India Mission. Till 5 years I worked there. Then I came back. Then for a very brief period, I taught as a teacher for mental health and counseling in IBC Kumanad. And right now here I am. So I will go through the presentation soon, and then we will have some time of interaction because I have been given the time till 10:30. So we will have a time for question and answers and things like that if possible. So anyway, we'll get into the to the presentation. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you can also hear me, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so today we are going to talk about upholding mental health and imperative for holistic health. You know, that is what the topic that has been given to me. So October 10th is recognized as the World Mental Health Day. And this is the theme which we have, the mental health in an unequal world. How mental health hurts us is what it's the primary thing that I want to speak. Like, you know, that because after the epidemic, or, you know, the aftermath of the epidemic, since after 2019, 2020, the inequality on all the areas, be it in the area of finance, be it in the area of social life, be it in the area of participation, be it in the area of on gender, on every line, on caste or religion, the inequity, or, you know, that the unequalness in the community has been increasing. And that is this inequity, or, you know, that inequity, not a theological area, but we call that as non-power, a kind of inequality, is very important that we need, because that is one of the most important skill determinant that is direct correlate with the mental health outcomes. So here on the, see, you know, there's some of the basic stand in India, like, you know, that is around 300 million people mental health issue, 300 million, and the estimate is that up to 60 million to 65 million persons have common mental issues in India, and between 6.5 to 7 of the Indian population has other mental health issues, and between 65,000 to 75,000 psychiatrists are there in India, and when you take it the number of clinical psychologists, it is a bit more low, and the psychiatric social workers, or the people who are totally working in the area of mental illness, they are very little. According to WHO, stress and depression causes has increased by 18% in a decade, and after this pandemic, after these COVID times, you know, that there is a huge surge of depression among people, and, you know, that the studies are ongoing, but anyway, it's a very alarming rise of depression that we are seeing in a national level, in a state level. We are seeing children up to at the age of 10 years, 11 years committing suicide. People are having depressive thoughts, and this kind of issues are going on. And between 1 to 2 crore persons in India have severe mental health issues such as schizophrenia and bipolar. And these are some of the very alarming issues. And according to various estimates, the expenditure on mental health is very, very little. That is 0.06% of the GDP. And that is a very, very dismal amount. And why I am talking this to seminarians and the people who are into spiritual arena of work is because I vision every students who are listening to me as missionaries, and who are going to work in the area of upliftment of people. And you know, that these facts and figures should be in the mind as we work, because, you know, that many of the time when we are looking at people, we tend to see people from a spiritual eye, but it is also important that we need to look into what is going in the people's mind, basically, like, so this is why we are trying to talk about these particular issues. And these are the causes of concern. It's only 13.7% of prevalence of mental illness as per National Health Survey that was held by NIMHANS and with other organizations in 2016. And 28% of the global suicide occur in India, and in Kerala it is a bit more alarming rate. Access to mental health care, only 49% have had mental health facility within 20-kilometer radius, and 26% reported mental health facility within 50-kilometer radius, and 59% reported lack of any de-addiction service in their area. And awareness about mental health, 57% of people are not aware of any person with mental illness, and 28% do not consider suicide to be associated with mental illness. Okay, and another alarming facts and figure is like 80% of the health insurance or thought mental health treatment was not covered. You know that when we are trying to look into the health insurance sector, most of the time the mental health aspect is not covered. Okay, so we are going to talk onto a bit more positive side. We are going to look into what is mental health, and I'm going to term it as the first few slides as mental health as the hidden wealth. WHO, by its definition, says that mental health is a state of well-being in which individual realizes his or her abilities, can cope with normal stress or life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make contribution to his or her community. Okay, so this is a very, very important definition. Like, that it is mental health is a state of well-being, and that is a very important area. So that when we call that as a term of well-being, it becomes a holistic kind of an area where it is looking into people's physical, economical, financial, spiritual, emotional area of their life. It is looking into almost all the areas of their lives, and in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities. People are self-aware. They know that what they are they are capable of doing. They know their strengths and they know their weaknesses. And that it is not only enough, but the important aspect is people who can cope with the demands of day-to-day life. That we are living, especially when we, in the first slide, we called it as an unequal world. That the inequality we are seeing in almost all areas of our life. Like, that when a person in Kerala is going to start a business, when he gives application to the concerned authorities, there is huge demand for bribery, and that when a person gets into a college for studies, that there is so much of ranking issues, that the course demands of that particular issue. So a person, there's a constant change of life, especially in a kind of a geographic locality like Kerala. That the demands of of a normal life is extremely alarming, and it's only very few people who are tolerating it in a very better way, especially when we are taking the case of students and all. I will come to that later on when we are going to the next slides. Like, so the people who can cope with the natural stresses of life and can be productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. This is also one of the very important things. One is the focus on well-being. Second is on the people being aware of their own abilities, and people who are able to carry on themselves, who are able to cope with the difficulties. And then it is about the productivity and the fruitfulness and their contribution to their families, to the community in which they live on. And it's so this definition is a very rich definition by which we can call mental health. Mental health problems like mental illness and mental health are common terms that are used to refer to full spectrum of diagnosed clinical conditions such as depression, anxiety, psychosis, bipolar, or schizophrenia. We will not focus much into that, but I will just, in a passing references, I will go through that, because we are going to focus more on mental health and very little on mental illness. But WHO, that is very categorical and says that mental illness comes under a kind of a biological stream of understanding. So that is the people from a theological stream or from a sociological theme can differ in that particular area, but the larger the world organizations are seeing mental illness from what we call as a kind of a biological perspective. And here we see that the another definition by the Canadian, Australia, Malaysia, mental health is the capacity within groups and environment to interact with one another in ways to promote subjective well-being, that is on personal well-being, optimal development, the use of mental abilities like cognitive, that is thinking, affective, that is by mood, and relational, and achievement of individual and collective goals consistent with the justice. And so this is what the another major area. Mental health is connected with justice. And when we're looking into social justice, some of the major component of the mental health is associated with equity. The another thing is like, it is involved with participation, it is involved with the rights, and it is also involved with the access to mental health services. So people who are able to, any normal person should be having a equal place of living, equal status of living, equal status of achieving their activities. There should be equal access for every person who is having a problem within themselves, or that they can find help. And that then there is a issue of participation. People should be able to participate well without any fear of discrimination, stigma, and things like that. And finally, we have the rights of the people. The rights of the people should be honored. This is the major area of definitions which we are seeing. So in the next time, we are going to look into what is mental health and what isn't. And that we are going to talk about some misconceptions that people have. And so some of the misconceptions that people have is like, that mental health is a sign of weakness, or the mental illness is a sign of weakness. So that becomes a part of people creating a prejudice against them. Some people say that it is shameful, and that in Christian community also many people share this kind of a view, like that we try to term it as a kind of a punishment from God, that the person is not right, or things like that. So these are the kind of issues where people that have negative attitude towards that, and some people think that it is all in your mind, but it might not be. Some of the social determinants or some injustice which is prevailing in their community might be having some other kind of an issue, and that might be causing some mental health issue on their lives. And something that you decide to have. Some people, this is another major misconception that people have, and they think that any person can decide their own mental health. And that's a very big misconception, because however strong people can be, that some people think that that I am much stronger than anything. I am a person like a mountain, that I can tolerate anything and things like that. But Bible also gives a view of a human being as a lamb of God, a sheep who is supposed to listen to God. The person is only standing by the ability that God has given to him. And so this is what it is about. So there is nothing that we can claim as I am a very strong person, that I can cope with situations. To some level, that some amount of self-esteem can be good, but it is not always the same. And sometimes, the other misconception is that, something to think about when it only feels broken. So no, mental health or a mental illness is not a kind of an issue where it happens when people are broken, that it also happens in normal times. Sometimes, that people's biological conditions, like, when your thyroid goes off, when your sodium, when your potassium, or when you're in your body, when organic changes happens, there is a change in the mind and the mental health issues that happen. And that is why we need to address that in a very wholesome manner. And an interchangeable term with mental illness. No, mental health is not an interchangeable term with mental illness. And that mental health is also not feeling good at all times. And there's something that you can snap out, that you can stay away from mental health, because always you are living within you. You are thinking, you are executing, you are planning your activities. So it is there. And mental health is not fixed, and mental health is not fake news. And so then what is mental health? That is the most important thing. It is very important. We need to understand it is a very important component in our life, something everyone has, that. So mental health facilities, mental health rights, mental health access, mental health equity, mental health participation, it belongs to everyone and intrinsically linked to and with the physical health. And that is very important because when we go into the tribal villages here, and when people come with mental issues and things like that, one of the primary reasons which we see here in Kerala among the tribals or in the poor populations in Bihar or North India and other part is that their physical health is not okay because their malnutrition is there. That they don't get the kind of a balanced diet most of the time. That especially the forest dwellers in Wayanad or the people who are living in the forest areas, that they are relying on the product from the forest. And we should recognize that it's not only humans who are depending on forest there, but animals also. So the animals also does not have a good amount of food, so they are coming onto the land, and that they are attacking human beings, and that kind of news every people are reading. So people are, especially people who are in the marginalized section, people who are in the poor section, people who are facing the harshness of the unequal world, they are finding it very difficult, and these physical problems are also contributing into the mental health issue. And it's mental health is worth making time for. That spending time with your family, spending time for your mental health, spending time for your happiness, it's a very important thing. And maybe mental health is being a part of human, something we need to look after, and that's a very important thing we need to be aware of. We need to assess ourselves, like what is my mood today, how am I feeling today. So these are the kind of issues which we need to talk about. And we need to talk about the positive, negative, changeable. It's complex and it is real. So we will just get into, and as questions come, we will just answer into that. So this is another slide showing the importance of mental health. 1 in 4 people in the world will be affected by mental health problems at some point in their lives. Around 450 million people currently suffer from mental health problems, placing mental health among the leading causes of ill health worldwide. Nearly 2/3 of the people with known mental health problem never seek help from a health professional. We will later on slides we will see that why it is not happening. So today we are going to talk about mental health awareness. So slightly we need to understand that these are some of the common illnesses which we go through. One of them is schizophrenia, depression, bipolar affective disorder. Bipolar means people can either go very happy or either sad. Like there is a condition what we call as mania. Mania is a condition where people become extremely happy. They start singing songs and things like that. It is not the kind of a happiness which we try to term joy and all when we are talking in Christian terms. But it people who are they are they profusely have that elated. Their mood is elated, they are agitated, they can't sit in one place. There is so much of that they try to assume bigger things. They might say very grandiose things about themselves, like that they are having power, that supernatural power and things like that. Sometimes people with mania can also spend so much of money, and they might write check. Or they might spend money on so many things. It is not like that when people when we get a monthly salary, we also feel happy and we also spend so much in the first week and things. It is, we are not mania. It is, we call that as a we call that as a elation, but it is not mania. But people with mania are people with mental illness who are having extreme happiness, who goes on spending spree. That they have extreme agitation. They are not able to complete a task and things like that. That is opposite to the depression, a condition called depression. In depression, people are extremely sad. That they have feelings of hopelessness, they have feelings of worthlessness, they have feelings of hopelessness, helplessness, and worthlessness. They have, the hope is gone. They think that they are not good for anything, and they think that that there is no one to help, and they have death wishes. and they try to give away, they try to talk about the things of death, they try to cry very oftenly. So these are the kind of conditions like mania and depression. When it comes together in a person, we call that as a bipolar. And most of the people who are living and they are not able to tolerate stress, they go through a condition called anxiety. And so this is the common kind of a condition which you see, especially when you go into the mission field and things like that. We are seeing so much of people who are anxious, and we can also see most of the sermons which we preach are on reducing stress and anxiety of people. Okay, so these are the things that we need to keep in mind. And then there are personality disorders. Like, I don't need to talk about personality disorders because most of the people who know we know personality. Personality is a condition where, that every person who, when he goes up to 13, 14 years old, the person becomes, they try to assume their own personality. So there are positive personalities, there are negative personalities, especially in the news today and all. We are seeing so much of negative personality, people, antisocial personalities, people who are pathological liars, who lie saying that, that they have valuable crores of rupees with them, and, that there is, they have the antiquities and things like that. So all these things are in news and things like that. So these are all people with personality problems. They are pathological liars. Even in the religious community also, we are having people with severe, personality issues, like, that people who assume, that dubious leadership styles and things like that. This kind of issues are seen, and people try to impose themselves on others, or, that people who are trying to be more colorful, or, that they who are trying to stand outside of the reality. All this kind of things. People are not empathetic or to the other person. These are all kind of issues which we see in the personality area. And then we are saying the psychosis. Psychosis is an area where people start listening to voices when there is no voices. Okay, so this we call that as hallucination. People also start to believe false belief, like some people is hurting them and things like that. So especially in a Christian area, in a Pentecostal area, most of the people try to think about demonic possessions and things like that. But these two things are very different. We are trying to in people, and then we are having the entire gamut of some the drug addiction, especially after the bishop. The discussion on is going seeing online class, students from different political colleges coming to me for counseling to decrease their gadget addiction. Because when the theological classes were going on outside, the students were playing games like Rummy, they were playing this, the another kind of happening. And in few instances, the money was going on, because the credit card were being used by the students, things like that. So I had to counsel people, around 4 to 5 people who had come, because this tradition is very, very important, especially even among the housewives and children, among old people. The gadget tradition, COVID has been increased. And the other issue is about the people where they can avail and things like that. Okay, so why mental health is you can it has a relationship to others. Like, that is the National Mental Health Association says mental health problems lead to new problems with friends, family, love, and so that is why we need to address these health issues in our colleges and things like that, especially with students. It affects how you learn. Like, that you might be listening in the same kind of a lecture that the other students are listening, but your mental health determines, like, which category you want to put that information into. And it affects your attentiveness, it affects your concentration, it affects your classroom conduct. The most important thing is, like, it affects your ability to organize and your ability to communicate. Okay, so these are all serious issues. Like, the organization is a very important thing. Like, when the hallmark of a intelligent person is how you organize your time, your space, your life, okay, and that all the God-given resources. Okay, so that is what the kind of the when we talk about King Solomon, the Queen of Sheba, when she came to visit him, she was that shocked by the nature of his the way in which he had organized the every aspect of his life. So that is the hallmark of an intelligent person. So a good student organizes their life. That they have a particular framework in which they live. They organize their information, they organize their studies and things like that. And it also is the ability how you communicate with your teachers, with your family members, how you are able to relate empathetic with the other person. So these are all the major areas. Especially in the area of work, these are the other major area is like how you cope with difficulty in your life, how you recognize, express, and regulate your emotion. That's another important area when we are trying to talk about mental health. And that how you empathize with others. This is a very, very important point. Like most of the time when people come for counseling or when people try to talk, this is the most important complaint that they say that my family members are not able to empathize with me. Like, they're not able to understand the what feelings I am going through and things like that, and have basic cognitive and social skills. This is the another main area. Like, people does not know how to think. Their cognition skills needs to improve, their social skills need to improve. So that is why I do a particular training program on Christian life skills or life skills in particular. Life skills is a 10-point program that was developed by WHO. But I, in my tenure, being associated with mission organizations and with theological institutions, developed some a few more core competencies that that the Christian theological students and people who are in the Christian management area, they need some Christian life skills, like that core issues of that needs specific training on how we need to deal with these particular issues, and cope with changing roles, responsibilities, difficult challenges, flourish in our roles, like how to manage stress, boost our resilience. Resilience is the ability to withhold stress. Okay, so this is a very important aspect. Some people can tolerate stress, some people can't tolerate stress. So resilience building is another important area of work, and how to reach your highest potential. So this is a map which I have given, like why mental health practice, or that mental health help is not available in India. It is the challenges and barriers along the mental health patient has to journey. And so some of the most important thing is that, like the first red kind of a thing, 70 less than 70% treatment gap across that for treating mental illness and things like that. And most of the people they don't go for that treatment all of a sudden. They go for various kind of faith healing practices, and which is very not at all contributing much to the people. And there's a lack of, mostly like it's a lack of people, it's a lack of resources, it is a lack of awareness. All these kind of issues we can see in this particular slide. Okay, but belonging to a Christian community, this is some of the most important thing that I need to talk about, like that for our community. Like we are called to be the ministers of the word of truth, okay, of love, of brotherly love. Okay, so but some of the sad thing, part of the thing is like that Christian churches, Christian attitudes, Christian people, they are they're dogged by such kind of issues, which is larger than the community most of the time, which I see, like stigma, prejudice, and discrimination for mental illness, for mental health. It is only a very small part for mental health, but we see the stigma, prejudice, and discrimination very heavily on issues of caste, on issues of gender, on issues of participation of people, on issues of disabilities, on issues of rehabilitation. every aspect, like, that even in the mission areas, the kind of sermons which people speak, there is some amount of discrimination, prejudice, stigma, and all associated. Even we have seen in Kerala, churches being separated in terms of caste, racism, and things like that. But all this social injustice and prejudices and discrimination, the effect of all these things is much worse on the mental health of people. There are many number of people, even among the ministers and even among the students studying, who are having a kind of what we call as a inferiority complex because of the conditions from which they come from, and that they have inferiority issues like on expressing themselves, all these kind of issues, only because of the social structure we as Christians form. And so this is a very high time that we try to discuss and address this issue and do away with these particular issues of stigma, prejudice and discrimination, like that it is labeling people, like that calling them by certain names and things like that. It is creating a stereotype, like that we have this self-righteous people attitude, saying that that I am holy than yourself, and so any person who is holy never can have a mental illness and things like that. But the picture is a very the picture is very different, like when we look into the spiritual the makeup of people who are living in different countries, we can see this kind of this self-righteousness attitude differing from in a very different landscape, especially when we are looking from people from a lower socioeconomic status. They try to follow a particular leader. The leadership patterns among them is very different. People who come from a Saudi Arabian spirituality, they express altogether a very rigid spirituality. But people who are living in a much more liberalized areas of the world, like UK, US, and things like that, they have altogether a bit more liberal aspects of looking into life. They have more participation. They have women preaching. They have people that a bit more free to express themselves and things like that. So these are the kind of issues. So stereotype is another major issue, and then the another issue of division as us and them, like even Christian denominations speaking about that, and the fear of losing social status, like that. So this is another major area. All together forming into discrimination, and that is a vicious circle that go through. So in the next slide, I will go through and I will come back to the another one. So this is the kind of a issue of stigma. One part is stigma as a stigma that people go through, and the label and avoidance. Second is the public stigma, and third is the kind of a structural stigma that people go through. Self-stigma is the kind of thing where people start feeling inferior about themselves. That if they have a mental health problem, they don't go to a doctor saying that what my neighbor will think, and what my neighbor will think is a major middle class question. Okay, on all the aspect of their life, people are holding back because what other person will think of me. But for the very high class people and higher socioeconomic status people, and even for the very poor people, unfortunately, they are happy because they don't bother what the neighbor thinks about themselves. And but this particular issue of that of other people calling them, other people controlling them, other people that creating hurdles upon them, these are all the kind of an issue, and that causes severe social issues on individual internalizes public stereotypes, and they start self-discriminating themselves. And in the public stigma, it is about like people calling them, that we call certain communities by names and things like that. And the worst is about the structural stigma that people go through because the institution starts to create such kind of a mental health divisions or the personal divisions for people and things like that. So that has an effect on the belief system, the prejudice, fear. They think that I can't trust. If I go for help, I get diagnosed, and this kind of issues are very dangerous. And then there is a behavioral discrimination where we think that the mentally ill people are dangerous. That we think that the mental illness can't be treated. All these issues kind of a stigma and discrimination. So what shall we do? So this is some of the things which we can do. The mental health in workplace. In workplace, you can create a stigma-free culture. See the whole person, that the person's mental health condition does not define who you are. People might be having mental health issue, but don't, that God, Jesus Christ showed us the example of hating the sin, but loving the sinner. So that is the kind of, so that is a very excellent model that we have in front of us. So when our children do wrong things, we correct them for their wrong behavior, but we love our children. So we need to see the person as a whole. We need to say that that we need not complain them, or we need not hate them as a person, but we need to that pinpoint the issues, what they are going through, what wrong they are going through. And so that is one of the major issues. Second is about the challenge misconception. Speak up if you hear your coworker spread stereotypes, myths about mental health illness, or any other issue of stigma, or when people start to speak low about another community and things like that, always try to correct them, that because we are becoming a part of creating stigma and things like that. The other thing is offer support. Don't be afraid to reach out if you think someone is struggling, that whether it be in the mental area, or even it be in a physical, or in whichever area, offer support. And that mind your words, and especially in mental health, that use respectful language and avoid labels like crazy, unstable, mad, and things like that. Avoid that kind of a terms, so use such kind of a references. So here I want to dwell. Okay, another 15. I will take another 5 or 10 minutes, and we'll finish 5 minutes. This is some of the one major area when we are trying to talk about developing holistic understanding. So this is a very important area. We are saying that the 4 major components of people's life, the outer circle is about the interventions which we can do, but the inner issues are the major issue, what people have within their body, within their mind, within their emotions, in a spiritual level. In the body, we see that that people with mental illness have there's the addiction to sexism, poverty, illness, bullying, neglect, self-harm, sleeping, lethargic, that their appetite going less, weakness, intoxication, fatigue, abuse and pain, and things like that. And how shall we treat that? That we need to have an active medical support. People should travel. They should sync themselves with the nature. They should that go for fitness programs, participation, strength, cleanliness, self-expression, nutrition. All these areas are very important. In the mind, that these are the kind of issues which we see in people: studying difficulty, suspiciousness, depression, humiliation, aggressive thoughts, concentration difficulties, suicidal thoughts, low self-esteem, a lack of respect, paranoia. Paranoia is having doubts that other people are harming me. Overbearing, jealousy, stress, irrational thoughts, communication difficulties, mind block, and things like that. And emotional are the kind of issues like people have shock, numbness, oppression, disinterest, suppression, anger, all these kind of issues. So what we can do, that. And the spiritual issue are some of the very important things. People, they lack purpose, lacking direction. These are some of the issues which I have also seen in seminary students, and we need to address this particular issue among them. Like, when they come into ministry, there is a sense of disorientation which I see among the people, lacking direction, worthlessness, apathy, disconnection, isolation, frustration, helplessness, overwhelmed, lack of identity, loneliness, stigma, disbelief, blame, envy. So what we can do? We need to create responsibility within ourselves, within for others, love, gratitude, forgiveness, caring, honesty, confidence, developing hope, and meditation, prayer. All these kind of issues are very important. In the emotional area, being supportive, being cheerful, compassionate, kind-hearted, encouraging, all these issues are very important. So this is what we need to understand, such a kind of a wholesome understanding when we are trying to deal with people. Okay, so how we are just now in the second, we're going to talk about the positive mental health, and we have a very great verse in 3 John chapter verse 2. It says that that it talks about the prosperity, and I give it as an amplified verse, like that every way. Can everyone mute yourself? I think some people are. Beloved, I pray that in every way you may succeed and prosper and be in good health. So it is, and just as your soul prospers, so it bases on the soul, and then it comes out into the almost all other dimensions of well-being. Like, these are the areas of well-being that we need to understand and commit ourselves, like environmental, emotional, financial, social, spiritual, occupational, physical, intellectual. And this is some of the things that we need to focus more on, like, that I don't have time. So, and this is another slide, and I will dwell on this slide for some time. Building a better world, and Adoniram Judson says that being devoted to life is a very important motto. So it is not only the life, the divine life, but also the kind of how people uses their life that God has given them, how they build their society. So this is what we are coming to the present theme of the world mental health right nowadays, because the kind of society that we live gives rise to the community that we have, and that community gives rise to the families that we have, and that gives rise to the individual which we have. So some of the issues like the inequality in the society, political participation, discrimination and stigma among people, all this kind of macro factors are very in connection with the community which we have. Like, that the community involvement, when we are seeing the community is broken, it is because of the society as a large is broken, and the social networks have broken, social support systems, how they impact on people, like school, workplace, neighborhood, and things like this are all the part of how the society, how it imparts the community. And then we are looking at how how it imparts the family, that's the relationships, parenting style, health status, household composition, income, substance use, all these things within the families are very important. And all these factors are compounding themselves upon an individual. Like, it pinpoints on their health status, it pinpoints on their difficulty to cope with stress or resiliency. It depends on, it shows that how physically active they are. It shows that how much control they have on themselves. It is on the nutrition of the child, nutrition of themselves. It depends on coping. Once again, substance use, violence, and spirituality. Everything is interconnected. So as missionaries, as Christian people, that it is our responsibility that we deal in the societal area much more, and then narrow it down to the community, then narrow it down to the family, and then narrow it down to the individual level. And then, then it's a huge change which we can see within the community. When you go as missionaries into North India, or when you work as a preacher, or a schoolmaster, or whatever work you're going to do, keep this in mind, that preaching sermons in a one-to-one in a small setup to change an individual is one part of the thing, but also have a focus on addressing the societal needs of the people, of addressing the society as a large, being socially minded. This is a very important lesson that I need to speak on themselves. So as a parting tip, so this is what I just want to give. Okay, so we have another 10 more minutes. Develop social skills, develop life skills, develop cognitive skills like creative thinking. Think creatively, use problem solving, set and achieve goals. These are very important things. You use positive coping strategy of actively involving with the problems, and trying to overcome the problems by working small component of a problem and then overcoming that. Use thinking skills of critical thinking, and these are all very important things. Be aware of your strengths, abilities, and things like that. And if you find that that you are having difficulty, get help from others, get support from others. And more than that, one of the things is, I have a verse to share, and then I will close. We are all aware of the verse in 2 Peter chapter 1, from verse 4, it goes on. It says that we are partakers of divine nature. Okay, so we have God for our help. Okay, and God is asking us that we be partakers of this divine nature and that divine nature. We need to add on such kind of virtues. And so this is a very wholesome Christian message, which I won't delve, because I know you have people from a seminary background can preach much better than me, but adding faith to the virtue, and to virtue knowledge, and to knowledge temperance. So it looks into almost all areas of our life. With temperance, patience into godliness, and to godliness, brotherly kindness or brotherly love, and to brotherly kindness, charity, or the love which we call. And if we are having this thing, so this is what, that positive mental health as a Christian brothers and sisters, we need to develop such kind of a strategy that where we can embark on this divine the character or the divine personality that we can develop, where we can be humble, where we can repent, where we can depend upon the strength of God, where we can listen to the God, where we can transform ourselves. So these are all the kind of area, if we are abiding, we can say that, that we can stay into a much positive health. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, I can take on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Vivyn sir, for your wonderful talk. And we know the time limitation.
Yes.
And we Christian ministers are the physicians of the soul. In fact, we need a thorough study on this classes. And may invite our respected principal to give the final comments. And I am hand over the steering to Dr. Annie George to lead further, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Professor Vivyn Mathew, for your inspiring message, and your message was clear that we have a role in working with the community, not only the people in the church, but also in the wider community, to bring mental health to our community. And you not only opened our eyes towards the issue, but you reminded us that we need to care, not only care for ourselves and the people in the church, but also see what we can do in our society at large. Thank you for your message, and I appreciate that you integrated Bible and psychology, and Bible and psychiatry. Now, I really appreciate that. We need scholars who can do that, so that the Bible is not something different from psychology, and Bible and psychology is interrelated. And we wish and pray that your work in Wayanad, you will be able to bring what God has given you as the goal and the purpose of working in Wayanad. And we need people who are the voices of God in our communities, in such areas. We really thank you for your time with us, and hopefully in the future we can work together, especially really interested in the Christian life skills. Let's see how you can help us, and be a blessing to our students. Thank you. And may I invite Sunny P. sir, Dr. Sunny P. To pray and conclude this session.
Yes, madam.
Thank you.
Loving Lord, we thank you and praise you for helping us to listen to this particular topic. Thank you, Lord, for the Christian ministers who are interested in the holistic development of the people who are in remote. Oh Lord, we praise you for helping us to understand the different dimensions. Particularly, Lord, this disease or these mental health issues are not only seen among human beings, but it is also visible in the forest belt among the animals too. Thank you, Lord, new awareness and new possibilities and a new way of understanding the issue brought into our hearts and thoughts. Help us to restitch and strengthen and retailor our community towards this particular God, that is holistic development. Bless him, O Lord, bless his ministry, continue to use him so that the entire community will be beneficial more and more. Give him strength, health, and every wisdom. Continue to help us, continue to mold us, continue to bless our community as we travel further, theological community. Committing ourselves, each and every person, principal, dean, chaplain, and all the administrative system of FTS and the financial sources of us. Everything we commit and we seek your grace upon each and every activities that we undertake through Faith Theological Seminary. Forgive our sins and violations, continue to be with